Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how Labour has taken another step towards supporting proportional representation. Now, don't get excited. It is exciting news if you know how this sort of thing works, but I really don't. It's not coming for the next Parliament, but the party has now moved closer to it potentially happening after that. But what we need now is a national campaign starting. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So Labour's National Policy Forum has been taking place this week. And although it doesn't say what goes in the manifesto as such, that's for the leader and the top leadership team. It is the vehicle by which the party scrutinises proposals and sees them developed into workable policies, which then do go into the manifesto. And to highlight how important it is, the major issue being discussed this week, arguably, was the notion of funded or unfunded policies. Keir Starmer is clear that Labour will lose economic credibility if it backs unfunded policies. Now, this is true, by the way. It's not just a perception. The main reason people don't vote Labour is that fear of tax and spend, as the Tories and Tory media put it. So Labour leaders who want to prioritise winning make sure that their spending plans are fully costed. There are Labour leaders in the past who have thought to themselves, well, I think I will win without doing that, and they're risking it, and then they end up losing. Now, I know the Tories don't have to do this, by the way. Nobody said politics was fair. But of course, there's a lot of us not happy with some of the specific policies which are having to be dropped to meet this requirement. It doesn't mean they won't happen, but they're not being committed to. And not all members of the Policy Forum were even happy to begrudgingly go along with this idea of all policies must be costed. But Starmer made his case and the Forum agreed. Now, the point I'm making here, what's this got to do with proportional representation? I shall tell you. The point I'm making is that if the Policy Forum was just a talking shop and that's all there was to it, Starmer would not have put in so much effort to persuading them to back his position. When the National Policy Forum supports a position, it's basically the party's position. It's policy. Which brings me to proportional representation, or at least electoral reform of Westminster, because PR is only one such outcome, and it's not universally agreed that it's the best outcome. It is the best outcome. But first, some background. A few years ago, you got the sense of a real push for proportional representation within the Labour Party. This made sense at the time because we were out on our arse after the 2019 general election. Up until a year ago, even with the stunning turnaround in fortunes, it still looked like we were heading for a hung parliament at best. So if it was going to be this hard to gain majority power, why not have a system which at least stops the Tories winning majority power so easily and regularly? Now, with Labour looking nailed on for a good majority, if not a stunning one, you might think support for PR within the party might wane a little. Oh, yeah, we are in support of PR, but maybe we don't need it quite so urgently. No, the support has been maintained. I don't know for certain, but I would guess a lot of members have just looked in horror at the unconstrained destruction wrought by the Tories over the past decade or so and decided we cannot let them do it again. It's certainly my view. 2 years ago, a motion was presented to the Labour conference to formally back proportional representation. It failed because affiliated unions blocked it. There was overwhelming support amongst the membership. Last year, some of those unions had formally adopted the positions themselves. So the motion passed. The motion was presented to conference again. This time it passed. Recently, Angela Rayner, who's not only deputy leader but a pragmatic one, said that she wasn't persuaded by the argument for proportional representation, but that if conference backs it, she will support it. Well, conference backed it last year, love. Also, it will be backing it again this year. So some think Starmer is opposed. Now, the fact is, we don't actually know. I don't know what either Starmer or Rayner personally think about it, or indeed anyone else at the top of the party. But Starmer consistently uses the line, not a priority. This is not what you would say if you go, no. You would rule it out. I mean, he's ruled out, for example, joining the EU. But we know that's happening at some point. So not even ruling out PR is a suggestion to me that we may not be that far away from it if we play our cards right. After all, no matter what happens, Keir Starmer cannot be the Prime Minister who takes us back into Europe. It would take longer than he will have in power. but he can deliver electoral reform if the conditions are right. And despite the projection for the next election, there doesn't seem to be any let-up in support from the party membership. Now that unions are coming on board with it as well, that's a major boost. Unions are not known for changing their minds very often. So now on to this week's development. Now, it might sound not as exciting as it is to me, but it is. I'll read it out and then I shall explain. I'll point a few things out. So this is a statement that has been agreed by Labour's National Policy Forum. And as you can imagine, anyone who's been involved in any sort of committee on any sort of scale will know that when a statement is presented, the exact wording is quibbled with over some time until it's got universal or at least very broad approval. So this is the statement. The flaws in the current voting system are contributing to the distrust and alienation we see in politics, but there is no consensus for a new system. Any proposed change to our voting system must be carefully thought through. It cannot be dictated by political leaders or forced upon the country from the top down. So this is now the official position of the Labour Party. It's their official position that the current voting system is not great, and it contributes to distrust and alienation in politics. Now, Keir Starmer has said he wants to tackle distrust in politics. So Labour are no longer committed to first past the post. In fact, officially view it as harmful. But the next bit of the statement means that they will not adopt any alternative as a manifesto promise. What the second part of the statement does is give the green light for a national campaign. It's basically saying the Labour Party will support any popular move towards a change of voting system. Now, here's where there's a problem. Unfortunately, there is no national campaign supporting a change in the voting system. Yes, you may point out, well, I'm a member of a group. Yeah, I'm a member of a few groups as well who campaigned for it. But there's two problems. First, they don't all agree on what should replace first past the post. So the sooner they all agree with me, the better. But second, the big one. No sod's heard of them. Any of them. I go down the street and ask, you know, what do you think about this group or that group or the other group? Like, what are you on about, mate? What I would now say is this. Labour are formally saying they will support moves to reform if there's a consensus. That is the qualifier there. Right now, there isn't even a campaign. So if anyone out there is a member of any group or groups who promote electoral reform, urge them to work together and get out. There needs to be a national movement, and if we want to aim for something... So we're not going to get anything for this coming general election, but if we want to aim for something for the following one, we can't just sit back and go, oh, Labour should deal with this for us. I will give you my vote if you do this. No, that's not how party politics works. Get out and campaign. You know, these groups need to band together and start reaching out to the public. That means local and national campaigning will have no help from the mainstream media. In fact, consider something else. The Tories, Tory media and their backers will be dead against this. This is their kryptonite. We achieve this, and they cannot... I'm not saying the Conservatives can never form a government again, but the far right, this narrow interest group, can never hold 100% of the power again. I would also remind people that the right-wing groups who will throw everything at stopping this have 100% record of winning referendum campaigns. 100%. There's not a single one they've lost. The time to sit back and expect a political party to solve all our problems was never a great strategy, but the movement from within Labour has now happened. It's now time for external action to match it. The arguments have to come at this from two angles. The first is the advantage to the public and the UK's body politic. It's not just that a lot of people think that changing the system would improve politics. Many of the problems we have stem from too narrow a section of the public holding disproportionate influence. Now, this isn't all down to first past the post, but first past the post is the worst genuine system of democracy if you want to combat it. The second angle is the benefit to Labour, because at the end of the day, if we're being realistic, only the Labour Party will be the vehicle to introduce this. So it also has to be put to Labour that it is in their interest to drive this campaign. Now, both of these are achievable. Polling consistently shows that people think first past the post is unhelpful and that there is a majority support for proportional representation. But that is not the battle won. Don't be fooled. Before the Brexit referendum, there was never a point where anything close to a majority wanted to leave the EU. The power of campaigning is manifest. If it didn't work, people wouldn't spend so much money and effort on it. And if campaigns didn't work, it wouldn't be the campaigns backed by the richest people who win almost all the time. And right now, if there were to be a referendum on voting systems, if Labour were to say in the manifesto we'll have a referendum on it, I would actually say, as someone who wants it as quickly as possible, no, because the only campaign in town is the one supporting the current first past the post system. We're not remotely ready to fight this. There is no campaign for an alternative until the groups wanting this stop chatting to each other in the darkened corners of cafes or social media equivalents and start getting out there. Talk to people who don't agree with them yet. As for Labour, the benefit's obvious. No matter what the next Labour government do, the following Tory government can and will destroy it all. And the Tories have now learned that the moral boundaries that they used to think existed to stop them going too far don't actually exist at all. I shudder to think what the next Tory government will do. Frankly, I would like it to remain in my nightmares and never come to pass. So the arguments are ready. What we don't have are the people making those arguments in public. Labour will not back anything which might cost them the next election. That is that simple. There's no point in trying to argue for Labour to do something that will risk the following election. Will never happen and should never happen. So we have to make this not just popular, but robust against a right-wing campaign against it. Never mind what the polls say now. There's no campaign now. When there is a campaign, we will lose support because the only campaign at the moment is in favour of first past the post. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.